Welcome back, everybody. Take a break with Stephen Shamus.
Alex, great to see you again, my friend.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What kind of shirt? What are you wearing on your shirt? Is that an elephant?
A Pete's Pinball from I think it's Minnesota, Ann Arbor, Michigan. Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Is it laundry day, Alex?
No, this is one of my favorite. It's so comfy. Look,
all right.
Black and pink and blue go together very well, obviously.
No judge. No judge. All right, Alex, what do we got on tap for the week?
Yeah, let's talk WandaVision.
Wanda and Vision, aren't we a five-pair?
This is really happening.
Like days of old, lighting the spark of love that fills me.
That trailer was amazing. We can talk a little Battle Angel. You know, something else that was a movie that came out during right before the pandemic. And then let's talk about those Hero Initiative Batmans.
Yeah, crazy, right?
Oh my gosh.
I love those Hero Initiative books. It's a very,
awesome.
very cool.
The 100 program. Yeah, it's awesome.
Great, great. All right, sounds like a fun show, Alex. What are we going to talk about first?
Yeah, let's talk WandaVision.
Yeah, so obviously the trailer came out. It's unusual. They did a whole cool concept. Very interesting, fascinating. They hooked me in right away. Even the poster is interesting for the show.
Yeah.
The way they're half people, half characters. I will say it's exciting that both of those characters have been embodied by the actors that play them. You see Paul Bettany, you see the Vision when he came to our show. He wears the red glasses. You know, he's happy. You know, when Liz Olsen came to our show, she's happy to do the finger. She's got those weird fingers, right? She's happy to do the whole finger thing. Yeah. They're both absolutely fantastic and great people, and they were great with the fans, and they've really embodied the characters. Mm-hmm. So these are not new characters in the Marvel universe,
not at all.
But they've definitely been modernized and brought to life over the Avengers films that have come out. Yeah. So we're going to start with the Scarlet Witch. We'll talk about the Vision. We'll talk about some of their appearances together and what these books mean and the important books over the years of what they are. I think what we did today, Alex, is we try to focus on a lot of the really aesthetically pleasing covers. Yeah. I think what we've seen over the last several years, especially when it comes to CGC and grading and the value of books, I think that we've seen books low pop, which you've heard us say many, many times, and aesthetically pleasing covers, covers that sort of remind you of the characters. And I think we're starting to see that more and more. And I think it started with Marvel, with Iron Man and Cap and Thor, where the characters in the comic books started to take on the appearance of Evans, Hemsworth, and Downey. And I think you're going to start to see that on the DC side as well, with the Peacemaker and Idris Elba and some of these other characters. I think and Harley Quinn, I think, you start to visualize them a certain way, and you're like, oh, okay, they're going to make that character look like the character on the screen.
Yep.
So that'll be very exciting. Okay, so let's go back to 1964. Jack Kirby, the King. X-Men #4. So this is classic Kirby run.
Yep.
On X-Men. These books have been highly collectible for years.
Yes.
Before Scarlet Witch, before Vision, before anything. 25 years ago, people were buying these books and holding them in high grade.
Yeah.
So these are not like books that these popped out of nowhere.
They did not shoot up after the announcement of Elizabeth Olsen. No.
Right. But still not bad values. And when we start to talk about the aesthetically pleasing covers, Alex, with the low pop, I think you're going to start to say, wow, those are some really great covers that they have out there that kind of look like Liz Olsen and kind of look like Paul Bettany. And that's going to be the characters that everybody grew up with and loves. So before we get into the 1964 Scarlet Witch and Vision, talk a little bit about the background of the characters, her powers, his powers, how they came together, and then finally, which we'll talk about the wedding issue in 1975. But before 1975, what is sort of the backstory on Scarlet Witch and the Vision?
Yeah, I mean, Scarlet Witch specifically has been in the Marvel Universe and probably one of the leads in the Marvel Universe since inception. She was in the X-Men as a bad guy. She was an Avenger for years, West Coast Avenger, Force Works. They did House of M in the early 2000s. That whole storyline was based around her. Her background's gotten a little confusing over the years. First, she was, she was a Maximoff. Then she was Magneto's daughter, and then then they weren't mutants. They were high evolutionary projects. So they were turned into who they were. So it's a little kerfuffle of her backstory. But I mean, as of right now, the Scarlet Witch we see in the comics, Scarlet Witch in the movies are pretty similar in the powers. She's a little bit more powerful in the comics. Like I said, at one point, the House of M storyline where she says no more mutants and disappears from the timeline almost all of the mutants and breaks the continuity and everything. It's crazy. It's bonkers, which I think is what you're seeing in WandaVision, is her powers taking that extra step forward and being more powerful than what you realize from the movies. Same with Vision. Vision's been around for the Avengers. He's also been in the Avengers for years. He's dead and come back. That's a big storyline with him. And, you saw it in the movies and in the comic. In the comic, he's got the green and yellow. In the movies, he's a little bit different colored. But the scene in Endgame where the gem gets ripped from his head and he turns all black, that's from the comics. I mean, he turns all white when he comes back from the dead and they rebuild him. He's an android. He's got, the powers that you see in the movies the same as in the comic book. They also use a lot of Wonder Man's personality. They take that and give it to Vision. They don't really talk about that in the movie. It's more based on Iron Man's AI. But
Jarvis, who Paul played the voice of Jarvis,
right, and who had no idea they were going to turn that into the Vision. I mean, it was just lucked out. I don't know if it lucked out because he's an amazing actor, but I mean, it turned out wonderful. And he was really good as Jarvis's voice, and he's amazing as Vision. So, a little backstory then.
So we're gonna first start with Scarlet Witch, then we're gonna talk about the Vision in terms of their appearances. Obviously, the Vision first appearance is a classic. I mean, that is like burned into your mind, that John Buscema cover, but we'll get to that in a minute. So 1964, March, X-Men #4, Jack Kirby cover. Mm-hmm. Books are very near impossible to get in high grade. Yeah. There are only 2 Blue Label 9.8, Alex. There's only 9 9.6 Blue Labels. There are only 27 9.4 Blue Labels. Wow. So the book in about a 9.2 or above, $12,000 and up. I've seen 9.6s and up listed for $65, $75, $80, $90,000. That's probably out of most people's ranges. But you could get a nice, decent copy, a 6, a 7, a 7.5. Look for a clean aesthetic copy. You can get a nice copy. It's a nice cover. It's a classic X-Men cover. Yep. But now we'll get into some of the more classic covers, which are much more affordable, which in my opinion are the great Scarlet Witch covers. If anyone's listening to this show and feel like I missed any great Scarlet Witch covers, I did a lot of research to try to figure out which ones are the most popular Scarlet Witch covers out there. So let's go through them. So the Vision first appeared in 1968. We'll get to that. We'll talk about that first appearance, and then we'll go back to Scarlet Witch. Mm-hmm. So Avengers 57, it's the John Buscema cover. It has been homaged many times over. Yeah. They nailed it. It's a perfect cover. It's one of those covers, Alex, that you look back and you're like, that's a perfect cover. If you had to redo it or reimagine it or redraw it today, you couldn't do it any better. Correct. It was perfect. Yep. Okay. Perfect cover. First appearance of the Vision. It's October of 1968. Avengers 57. There's only 13 Blue Label 9.8s. There's only 2 Gold Label 9.8s. There are 52 Blue Label 9.6s. 2 Gold Label. 2 Gold Label 9.6s. Probably signed by Stan Lee. I would think. Then there's 111 9.4s Blue Labels, and there's 179 9.2 Blue Labels. Wow. That book in a 9.0 will sell for about $850, and then it goes up from there. So I think you could find yourself a nice white page, 9.0 or better, $850 or more. That is a staple book. You'll never go wrong buying that book. That book will be worth it from now, today, tomorrow, forever. What's funny, Alex, is we've talked about some of these modern era books with higher population than this book that sell for 5 times the price, right?
Yeah, nuts.
So it is kind of comical sometimes when we talk about it. It's like, hey, this Edge of Spider-Verse is a $4,000 book, but yet a Vision first appearance from 1968 is worth less than that.
Yeah. My bet is the silver. Always put your money on the Silver Age stuff because it'll always stay. It'll never go down.
Take that to Vegas, Alex.
That's
Let's
it.
go. Let's go. Okay, now we're going to get to the wedding issue. Great cover.
Yes.
Another classic cover, Gil Kane, the wedding issue. It's June of 1975. So they get together.
Mm-hmm.
It's giant size Avengers #4. There are 2 9.8 blue labels. There's 18 9.6 blue labels. There are 25 9.4 blue labels. So you can really only hope to get a 9.4, maybe better. It's only a $240 book at a 9.4. Again, It makes no sense at all. And if you ever meet Paul or Lizzie at a show in the future, like you were able to meet them at, that would be a great book.
It's a beautiful book
to have signed, especially now with WandaVision coming out.
Yeah.
And you know, kind of, it looks like they're taking you through their domestic, kinship,
60s,
domestic
70s, yeah,
right, relationship,
Brady
right, of
Bunch,
how they got through. Yeah. Yes. So the next Scarlet Witch book we're going to talk about is August of 1979, Avengers #186. It's a classic John Byrne cover. Great John. Again, they had a lot of great artists working on these books over the years.
Yeah.
As I was going through the covers, I'm like, wow, the giants, right? It is a great John Byrne cover. There are 50 9.8 blue labels. There are 35 9.6 blue labels. It's a $220 book in 9.8. Avengers 186. Again, another great book. If you could ever meet Lizzie Olsen and get it signed, in hindsight, I wish I had one of those and gotten it signed.
Yeah. That price, too, that's not a bad price.
Not a bad price. Again, we talk about it all the time, and I think you're going to start to see some movement on all these books.
Yep.
Then in 1982, definitely 80s classic style. Not for everybody, right? Different hairdo, different look, different style. Get it, totally get it. Vision and the Scarlet Witch #1 came out in November of 1982. There are 82 blue label 9.8s. There are 10 gold label 9.8s. Sells for about $125. There's a Canadian version, Canadian price version. There are 5 blue label 9.8s, 3 gold label 9.8s. Believe it or not, it only sells for a little bit more in the raw condition, maybe only a little bit more in the graded condition. It's not an expensive book. I think it's because, again, aesthetically, it doesn't look like the characters that you see on the screen
the 80s.
today.
They were printing a lot of those books, so very
and
easy.
It's 80s style. It's 80s style. It's an 80s aesthetic. Okay. Then I would come to 2008, and there's an amazing, amazing Frank Cho cover, and it's reflected in the price.
Yeah.
Ultimates 3, #3, from March of 2008. There's only 32 blue label 9.8s, 19 gold label 9.8s, probably signed by Frank, and it's about a $200 book. Again, it's a great Frank Cho cover. Love Frank Cho. He's an extremely popular artist. That cover is a great cover. That's something, again, if you're going to ever meet Lizzie and have her sign a book, that's a book I would have her sign. Then I think the next great cover, I think you're jumping to 2012, December, Uncanny Avengers #1, the Adi Granoff 1 in 75 cover.
Yeah.
That Adi cover is an amazing cover. And again, you're starting to see the aesthetic where it looks like Lizzie Olsen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Now you're starting to...
We've said that name a lot, so you can kind of, if you watch this show or you listen to the show as podcast, you can tell when solicits come out and you start seeing incentives for Adi Granoff, for Frank Cho, for some of these other people, you can kind of key in on, oh, maybe that might be something I want to grab for the future.
And they printed a lot of copies of Uncanny Avengers #1. 2012. You were probably at Midtown at the time.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
You probably sold a boatload of those, right?
A lot of books, yeah.
But this is a 1 in 75 variant. So again, it didn't have, even if they printed, 200,000 copies, they may have only printed a few thousand copies of the 1 in 75 variant. So it's not as prevalent. There are only 41 blue label 9.8s and only 13 gold label 9.8s. And that's about a $250 book. Again, a great buy at that price. Again, if you're able to get it signed. Then the following month, Milo Manara did a 1 in 100 incentive cover, Uncanny Avengers #2, another phenomenal cover.
Yep.
And that book has 51 blue label 9.8s, 4 gold label 9.8s, and that book sells for around $200. Yeah. And then the last book, which I think is very, very cool, David Nakayama did an incredible cover where she's holding a tarot card. This is great.
Yeah.
It's Tarot #1 from March of 2020. It's the David Nakayama 1 in 50 variant. There are 16 blue label 9.8s. There are 15 gold label 9.8s. That book sells for around $225. It's a very cool card because it's I keep saying card. It's a very cool cover.
Yes.
Because she's holding the tarot card of her holding the tarot card, and the image gets smaller and smaller.
Infinity covers. Yeah, I love those.
So that's a great cover.
Yeah.
Not an expensive book, $225. There's only 16 blue labels out there. Again, if you can find that book raw and see that it's in a 9.8 condition, I would definitely want to pick it up.
Yeah.
So again, to me, that wraps it up for the Scarlet Witch in terms of the iconic covers. Again, if you feel like we missed any, Alex, if you feel like I missed any, we'll bring it up at a future show. No problem.
Definitely.
So now that takes us on to the Vision.
Mm-hmm.
We already talked about Avengers 57, the first appearance. So we'll move forward. I think that the Vision covers that really start to represent the Paul Bettany version of the character, because the Ultimate Vision stuff really didn't represent the Paul Bettany version. I think you really start to see in 2016 with the Vision series.
Mm-hmm.
Vision number 1, January of 2016, the Michael Del Mundo regular cover.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There are 129 blue label 9.8s. There are 45 gold label 9.8s. That's a $325 book.
Yeah.
So
that series is polarizing. Yeah.
Yes. So now people are really, really looking for that series, and they really want that. Now, you said it was polarizing. Why was it so polarizing?
I mean, that was your first glimpse into the Tom King type comic book turning things on its side. I mean, you've seen him he started off around, he's been writing books for a little while, but the Vision was the big one. Then he went to Mr. Miracle, and then then the same team is now on Strange Adventures. This kind of like series that Tom King has been doing starts really with the Vision, and it really like humanizes him. Tom King's from DC, as I am. So it's the Vision with his family that he made, moves to a DC suburb and just kind of lives and kind of figures things out, trying to live a normal life. Fantastic series. Nobody really saw it coming. So I think after the first handful of issues comes out and reviewers started picking it up, that's what started picking up. But again, small print run in the beginning. That's why it's more of a coveted comic now.
Right. And then there's the next cover is one of my favorite artists. I tried to get him to every single show for the last 10 years, could not get him on a plane. He lives in Spain, Marcos Martin. Yeah. I love, with a capital L, Marcos Martin. Yeah. I'm a big fan.
It's amazing. Yeah.
His art is great. He must be very reclusive. I've never seen him at a show.
Doesn't need to go. He's
maybe
having
he goes,
good time.
Maybe he goes to shows in Europe. I don't know.
Probably does local hotel conventions. You have to go to Europe.
I've never seen him at a show.
Yeah.
So anyway, his Vision number 1 cover from the same January 2016 series, it was a 1 in 20 variant. It sells for about $50 raw.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you know how there's only 11 blue label 9.8s. There are 4 gold label 9.8s. So they're not really available. You could buy a 9.6 copy for around $250. So I can't imagine. So I think one of those 9.8s might sell for close to $1,000. So people must appreciate Marcos the way I appreciate Marcos. But again, like you said, I don't think that book was under ordered. But again, it was one of those 1 in 20 variants. People, maybe like you said, if a store ordered 5 or 10 copies and didn't order the 20.
It wasn't under ordered, but it became such a hit later that they definitely didn't order. Each store did not order enough. They didn't order Batman and Amazing Spider-Man numbers. They ordered nice new series. Let's figure it out. It's not going to be an ongoing, but very, very low for as popular as the book is.
Right. And then the next cover is the Ryan Sook 1 in 25 variant cover, another great cover. There's only 25 blue label 9.8s. There's only 11 gold label 9.8s. This is one of those scenarios where these books have sold for $2,000 in 9.8.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's not an expensive raw book, so it might be worth it to go out there and try to buy this copy if you can find them raw and hope to get that elusive 9.8. They don't sell for that much raw.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of those things where I think people want it 9.8. They're willing to pay a huge premium for it. And again, a very, very hard book to find.
Yeah.
And then the last book to talk about is very, very cool. It's the Wiz Khalifa hip hop homage cover.
Yeah.
It's a very, very cool cover.
I love those variants. Those are amazing.
It is a cool cover. And so it's the Vanessa Del Rey variant cover. there are only 13 blue label 9.8s. There are only 7 gold label 9.8s. Those books have been sold for $600 at 9.8.
Yeah.
So that series is not cheap, Alex. When you start to like go through. So, you know, pick up your Vision and Wanda stuff now. Yeah. I think it's only going to go up. I love that giant size wedding issue though.
Yeah.
That's to me, that's the one because of what you see the series is based on, right? It's almost like got that storyline intertwined. All right, cool. All right, Alex, what do we got next?
Let's talk about the breakout hit that maybe you've seen, Battle Angel Alita. Alita Battle Angel for the movie.
Yeah, very, very interesting. There's really 2 books of note to talk about on the American side. There's Japanese versions, which we won't go into today because there's a lot of different versions of the Japanese books. Yeah. But on the American side, 1992, Viz came out with Alita Battle Angel. It's her first American appearance. Obviously, she was in Japan before that.
Yeah, regular comic book, American comic book size, which is new format for that series. Yeah,
correct. There are 3 9.8 blue labels. Wow. There are 22 9.6 blue labels, and there are 12 9.4 blue labels. That book will sell in a 9.6 for at least $700. But again, with only 22 in the pop.
Yeah.
You know, so my recommendation would be try to find a raw copy. But, you know, 1992, Alex, is 28 years ago already.
1992, and that's a big time for comics when they really started pushing kind of the manga stuff here. You had the Akira series by Marvel. You had the Battle Angel. Dark Horse was starting to put out a bunch of stuff, reprints and everything. I wouldn't say they weren't popular because they're definitely popular. The Battle Angel ran for a bunch of issues. You know, Akira ran for a bunch of issues. The Dark Horse stuff ran for a bunch of issues. But I think it got lost with collectors where once the 90s boom kind of started receding, that the manga reprints really weren't heavily collected unless it was the Akira Marvel stuff, just because it was colored differently and, you know, collected in a different format. But those are going to be hard to find. I mean, those were dollar bin books for years, quarter bin books for years. Now that, you know, the movie was a success, it's going to be hard to find those raw and in good shape.
Yeah, so talk to us a little bit about the character and the history of the character, where she was in 92 and what happened recently, because we're starting to see this like Ball and Chain and some of these like defunct series all of a sudden, oh my God, Dwayne The Rock Johnson's in Ball and Chain and holy cow, right?
Well, it's funny because Battle Angel Alita, who is essentially, you know, the character kind of boils down to that she is found in she's a robot, she is found, she doesn't know who she is. Come to find out she's really awesome and does this like robot karate type stuff and becomes a bounty hunter and, you know, continue adventures. The weird part is James Cameron, who did Titanic and Terminator 2, has been a fan since the 90s. He has always talked about it. He's always wanted to make the movie. He's always been a producer, or it's always been in production in his production office. He finally made it, but he was a fan of the comic. Like in the 90s, he was reading comics and he got this property, fell in love with it, and finally got to make the movie he wanted to make. It's also directed by Robert Rodriguez, which I don't think many people realize that.
Oh yeah, I didn't know that.
Exactly. Yeah. It was a really odd movie when it came out, because I think people just saw it as kind of like this weird animated thing. But I mean, it's a blockbuster movie, made its money back, made some more money, and it's a big fan favorite.
Right. So the only other book of note is the 1993 series, number 1, volume 2, number 1, and there is no pop on that at all. So my recommendation to you is if you can find a raw copy of either of the books, go out and get it. 27, 28 years old, who even knows? But you're right, they might still be sitting in someone's dollar bin somewhere. You don't even know.
That's one of those, like, you want to go on Craigslist to see if anybody's selling their 90s comics collection from a kid, and hopefully there's a couple issues in there.
People still use Craigslist?
Oh yeah,
I don't. Still a thing?
But yeah.
You don't.
I don't. Well, maybe.
Yeah, you don't. That's probably where you got that shirt from. That
maybe.
That Pinball Pete shirt.
This is one of my favorite shirts.
All right. We're coming up to my favorite part of the show, Alex. Okay, here we go. Very high tech. It's Alex's pick of the week. What do you got for us, Alex, this week?
Yeah, so got some feedback from when we were talking about the McDonald's boxes which was a couple people were
hold on a second. You probably were one of those kids that bought the Happy Meal just for the toys, right? You're like
100%. I don't think I might have eaten the cheeseburger and then just been like, I just want the toys.
Okay.
Parents ate the food. I took the toy in the box. Along the same lines, cereal lately, maybe the last handful of years, has been collectible and very hard to find. Cereal boxes. So, for example, a couple things I was watching on eBay: Slimer and the Real Ghostbusters cereal is in the store. I'm sure you saw it as a kid. Everybody saw it. Maybe you even bought some. An empty, flattened box sold for $200.
Let's say it's got the cereal inside from $500.
A sealed box, impossible to find. I mean, again, parents, nobody kept, even in the 80s and 90s when things were collectible and everybody was saving their comics and saving their toys and everything, nobody thought to think, oh, well, what about the cereal box? Nobody thought about it. Stuff was getting trashed. The only way people saved it is either they were super collectibles, hoarders like me, or they crushed it, put it in a box somewhere and just forgot about it. But some of these boxes go nuts, and there's cereal collectors out there. Would you
eat the cereal, Alex?
I don't think I would eat the cereal. I don't need to. Like, I can remember what it tastes like. Look, all cereals either like Fruit Loops or Lucky Charms or Frosted Flakes. There's always variations of the same ones. It's all the same. But like there's a Nintendo. I don't even remember. There's a Nintendo Entertainment cereal system where it was half one cereal and half the other. One was Mario, one was Zelda. $250 for just the box. Wow. Just the box.
I want to buy a box with the cereal and see you eat it on live camera.
I mean, if you're gonna buy me a Nintendo box that's $250, I'll eat the cereal in it. Deal.
I always bother Mike on ACE to eat the gum, and it's like molded and not gross.
I've eaten old bubble gum from the cards, and it just turns into chalk, and you can't. There's no gummy. It just turns, and not good. Don't do that. Don't eat those things.
All right, Alex, what do we got next?
Yeah, let's talk about the Hero Initiative and their Batman 100 project.
Yeah, so what's interesting about these books, Alex, is that these books are not distributed widely, where you're getting a blank cover that's been distributed, and then Hero has them autographed and sketched, and then they go for sale. This is a situation where these books are printed exclusively for Hero. Yes. The only books in the prop report are all gold label signature series. And if you only had 100 or a few 100 plus, maybe a few extra copies printed of a book, putting aside the fact that there was a sketch on it, these books should be worth a lot of money just because they're rare.
100%. Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Regardless. So Hero's been doing this for a bunch of years now. Eventually, we're going to get Jim McLaughlin from Hero on the show. Jim and I worked together, full disclosure, 20 some odd years ago. So I've known Jim for many, 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 many years. We have a very good rapport. We've worked together for a lot. So he and I have a sort of a funny rapport with each other. I make fun of his Minnesota Twins. I make fun of his Minnesota Vikings, who lost 4 Super Bowls. He doesn't appreciate that. He's hoping one day the Vikings can pull through. I don't know that's going to happen anytime in the near future. I think their best chances years ago when they had Randy Moss. So I do want to go through the other Hero initiatives at some time to talk about some of the other projects they're working on over the years. But if you look at the values of what these things have sold for over the years, I think just the fact that there's only 100, maybe plus a few extras out there, regardless of whether or not there's a sketch on it, that in itself should make these books extremely rare and valuable.
Definitely.
I mean,
worth a buy just for that. And if you want to call the sketch a bonus, but I mean, it's more than that. It's more than that. It's the book is extremely rare. The sketch on that extremely rare book is more rare than that. Like it's amazing that these things exist.
Right, and you're getting the gold label CGC, which at this point we don't even know when you're going to get gold level sketch CGCs again, right? I mean, and it's hard, when you go to a show, and I see a lot of the art dealers online right now, and they're like, oh, we're opening up this person's sketch list or that person's sketch list, or have you been to a show and they open up a sketch list? How many sketches can an artist do in a weekend? 10, 15, 12? Like, it's not like Arthur Adams is going to go do 50 sketches over the weekend. I mean, what could he do? 10, 15, 20 sketches? Adam Hughes. Their list, if you're not there like hours in advance, their list closes
first 10 minutes, first day of the show. After that, the commission list is full for the weekend. Sorry, try your luck next time.
Right, and you can't wait in 5 lines at the same time.
No.
So today we're going to talk about the Batman 100 we'll talk about some of the books that sort of have this great aesthetic, artists that we like, artists that we appreciate. The first one is the Arthur Adams. He used the classic Joker style.
Mm-hmm.
He used the throwback Joker style. Mm-hmm. Arthur Adams is an incredible artist to begin with. His stuff always sells. His stuff is always sold for a lot of money.
Yep.
That was the big book at $3,800.
Yep.
So that was one of the bigger ones. I'm a big fan of Khari Andrews. I've been a big fan. Khari's been coming to our shows for over 10 years. I love Khari's work. I think what makes Khari so interesting is that he works in a lot of different mediums. I've seen him do pen and ink. I've seen him paint. I've seen him do charcoal. I've seen him do acrylics. I've seen him do everything under the sun. And his cover is amazing. Again, he I don't even know what he used. Used some sort of I don't even know what I would call this. He used some shading. His work on this book is incredible.
Yeah.
So I love what Khari did with his particular cover. I'm also a fan of Nick Bradshaw's.
Mm-hmm.
He's working. He just did a new Taskmaster cover. It's incredible. I've loved Nick's works for years. He did a great job. He did a big, giant, bulky Bane, and that one sold for $800. Like Nick's covers, if Nick does a cover to a book, it's a $2,000 to $3,000 cover. $2,500, $3,000, some are even $4,000 or $5,000. You could buy a Bane Batman blank sketch cover, $800. To me, that seems like a steal, and it's CGC graded with the gold label.
Yeah.
So those are some of my favorites. Some of these books, Alex, sold for just a few $100s.
I missed out on the Fred Hembeck. I bid on it and I wasn't paying attention and I missed it. And that one sold for $550. And that I love Fred Hembeck. I love Jeffrey Brown. Those are the two of my favorite cartoonists. And I missed out. I slept on it.
And I love the Kevin Eastman cover. And what I love about Kevin Eastman is he always draws in that Ninja Turtle style. It doesn't matter what he's drawing. He draws in that Ninja Turtle style. And it's so distinctively, you could look at a Kevin Eastman and you're like, that's Kevin Eastman. You know it's 100%. Kevin Eastman. It's got his, and he did his Batman in the Turtle style, which is awesome. So that's another one. The Jose Luis Garcia Lopez.
Yeah.
Was only a $2,000 cover. What I love what he did is he had the big Batman cape with all the villains in it.
Yeah.
I mean, and again, $2,000 for a Jose Luis Garcia Lopez cover. I mean, $2,000, that seems pretty cheap to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I agree.
So again, there were a lot of other good ones. The Dale Keown cover, again, distinctively Dale Keown. It's kind of got that Hulk, that Hulk style look to it. The Hulk covers that you remember of Dale. In that Batman style. So there's a lot of good covers. If you want to participate in the next ones, it's heroinitiative.org.
Mm-hmm.
And they're always announcing new ones. I think they have a Bloodshot one coming out in November that you should look for. Typically it's very much character related. So, the ones that focus on Spider-Man or Batman or some of those characters, those prices tend to go higher depending on who the artist is. And if the artist is very closely associated with that character as well, like when they did the Spider-Man one in McFarlane's cover, I think it sold for like $7,000 or $8,000. That was a bunch of years ago because when McFarlane does Spider-Man, that's the character and that's the artist that everyone wants. So
and when you're looking at these, and if you're not familiar with the Batman 100 project or the 100 projects, and the next one comes up with Bloodshot, remember Hero Initiative helps comic creators in need. So the money isn't just going to a collector or a store. It's going to help the comics industry. So even if you think you overpaid, you never overpaid. You're helping out the industry. You're helping out your favorite artists. You never know when they're going to need help. That's what the Hero Initiative is for. It's definitely worth throwing in some money and getting those books. And they're some of the rarest sketch cover books you'll ever own.
Right. Just the book itself.
Just the book itself. Yeah.
And just to give you out there, the grading on these books, there were 81 9.8s, 18 9.6, 7 9.4, 1 9.2, and 1 9.0. Those are all gold labeled. There are no blue labels. There never will be any blue labels. If you add that up, you come up with 108 books. So they did a few extras. I think Jim Lee did 2 books. A few people did a few extras.
Heroes and villains books. Yeah.
Right. But that's it.
Books. That's it.
You're never going to see him again. Yeah. So just the fact that it's 108 books, there's a value to owning one of these books. I'll get one of these days from somebody that
I'm surprised you didn't get one. I thought I saw you looking.
I just missed it.
I know we both missed it. We slept on it.
All right, Alex. I think that wraps us up for today.
2 thumbs up.
All right, so I guess we will see you next week.
Same bat time.
Same bad channel. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, guys. Thank you.